So we're going to begin with the TikTok ban that is set to take place on January 19th. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments on January 10th that focused on the constitutionality of the ban on TikTok that was proposed by President Biden, agreed to in Congress, and then signed by President Biden. So the justices will come through with this decision on January 19th. I am biased towards TikTok remaining operational in the United States, not only because I love the platform, but I do believe earnestly that restricting its flow of information and banning the app under the false guise of national security is a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. The government is overstepping and censoring this app because they don't like not being able to manipulate the freedom of information. We saw this with Twitter. Both the Biden administration and the Trump administration took exception with things that Jack Dorsey was allowing to exist on the platform. As we know, TikTok, owned by ByteDance, which is a Chinese company, the government, whoever the president may be, cannot reach out to President Xi or the CEO Zhu Zhichu, who, by the way, Senator, I'm Singaporean. They don't have the ability to exert that kind of force. And they don't like that. They don't like how freely information flows on, for example, the genocide going on in Gaza. I think additionally, part of it plays into the jealousy of people, or more specifically, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, guys who have social media companies here in the States that aren't as successful or as popular as TikTok. That is largely because of the fact that Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter just suck. Twitter is ass now. Instagram Reels is fucking terrible. Facebook is a cesspool. What is particularly insidious about the bill that was signed into law is that it gives the government the ability to ban apps arbitrarily. If there is an app that President Trump doesn't like from an adversarial nation, they're allowed to ban it. It is a really, really dangerous precedent to set. The justices heard their arguments, as I mentioned, on the 10th. They have been open about how they don't really understand social media that much, and they don't really know the, I guess, the specifics of apps like Twitter and TikTok. One point that I saw on TikTok, of course, was if this app is really a national security threat, if the United States government is concerned about the data harvesting practices of ByteDance and TikTok, why don't they also ban apps like Temu and Shein? These are Chinese apps, wildly popular Chinese apps here in the States, and yet this ban only applies to TikTok. Additionally, if you are truly concerned about privacy rights, why haven't you done more to prevent big tech from harvesting user data and sharing it with brokers who can then send that information to advertisers? I mean, Apple just got hit with a nearly $100 million lawsuit because Siri was collecting voice information when she wasn't prompted, and Apple was giving that information to advertisers. It simply does not have anything to do with national security. It is simply about trying to control the information that us in the United States have access to. We're going to take a look at this article in The Hill. This is Secretary Mark Kelly says he's aware TikTok ban is controversial, but there is national security risk to the app. Senator Mark Kelly, I can't read. I gotta resize the window. I think. Yeah, okay, we're good. Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat, Arizona, said Sunday he is aware that the possible TikTok ban, quote, is controversial, yet the app, quote, has a national security risk to it. I imagine there's going to be a disruption to the service here, starting on the 19th. Kelly told CBS News' Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation. I know this is controversial. I know there are folks out there that earn a living on TikTok, but it has a national security risk to it. A law that passed Congress with expansive bipartisan support and was signed by President Biden last April requires TikTok to face a ban in the U.S. starting on 19th unless it divests from ByteDance, its Chinese-based parent company. TikTok and ByteDance, I don't know. I don't believe this is mentioned anywhere else in the article. I don't really know. I read this yesterday. I don't fucking remember. They were adamant about them not divesting from TikTok. And I believe if a ban is levied, they are going to cease operations in the United States, despite there being a pathway potentially for President Trump to roll it back. The reason they're gonna do this is it is going to cause tremendous financial hemorrhaging for them in terms of revenue from advertisers, and they might not be able to withstand it for a few days, a few weeks, however long it may be for Trump to roll back this ban that he says he's no longer in favor for. TikTok is currently fighting at the Supreme Court to save the platform in the United States, but it has received a cold response from the nation's highest court. The social platform has said that divestment is practically impossible. A former Solicitor General representing TikTok, Noel Francisco, previously told the Supreme Court that the app would in effect, quote, go dark, and that the ban clashes with the First Amendment. Suppose that China used its leverage over Jeff Bezos, his international empire, including his Chinese business, to force the Washington Post to write whatever China wanted on the front page of the Post, Francisco said. Surely the government couldn't come in and say, Jeff Bezos, you need to either sell the Washington Post or shut it down. During his Face the Nation appearance, Kelly said that when it comes to TikTok, he is worried about their ability to manipulate the population of the United States, especially in time of conflict. So it was the right decision. I voted for it. And it looks like the Supreme Court is going to uphold the legislation that we passed. He added that he'll reach out to TikTok for comment. Something that's very crucial here, and something that two justices mentioned, Elena Kagan and Neil Gorsuch. His being in this surprised me because he's one of the more conservative justices. When they were listening to these oral arguments, there was a Solicitor General for the United States on behalf lobbying for the ban of TikTok, and she explained that the issue with TikTok is how China can manipulate the algorithm at their will to feed whatever kind of information they want to its user base. Elena Kagan pointed out that every social media app has the capabilities to do this. Neil Gorsuch pointed that out as well, saying that that argument would apply to every social media app. He also mentioned that any content producer, whether they be on social media or whether they be in a newsroom, they have the ability to do whatever they want with how they publish. That's a very free market. That's a very free market way of looking at this situation. But it also doesn't reckon with the fact that these algorithms are largely untouched by the company itself. They are designed, the algorithm is to keep people on their app for as long as possible. And the way that you do that is by feeding them content that they want to see. There are a large portion of people who work in tech who don't understand how exactly algorithms work. They are a very, very tricky subject, but they do know that they can train this algorithm to understand the content that it is feeding to its user. And then when a user engages in that, whether that be a share, a like, a comment, I think the TikTok algorithm takes watch time into account as well. It knows that it can feed people more of that content. If I like cats or if I like LeBron James edits, I'm going to see that on my TikTok. And I do see that. My TikTok algorithm is so perfectly trained to show me content that I want to see that I very rarely skip multiple videos in a row. Additionally, the argument that the Solicitor General proposed to the United States also is very flawed because talking about manipulations of algorithm, especially from a right-wing perspective, Elon Musk did algorithmic tweaks to Twitter after he bought it. There are documented cases, reports of this, there are studies of this that explained how the first instance was on Super Bowl Sunday of 2024. Him and President Biden both tweeted support for the Philadelphia Eagles in that game. Biden's tweet was seen like 27 million times compared to Elon Musk, whose tweet was viewed only 9 times. He was so butthurt by this that he called an emergency meeting at Twitter HQ and forced the engineers to prioritize his tweets in the algorithm. I also can add anecdotally that even though I don't even think I followed Elon Musk. No, I unfollowed Elon Musk after he became like severely fucking just annoying and racist and anti-Semitic and weird. And yet his feed, his tweets were always at the top of my For You page. I have seen considerably more conservative content on my Twitter feed, even though I don't engage with conservative content in any degree. I already told you guys, I'm left wing. I interact with people like Hassan Piker and Kyle Kalinske. Those are the kinds of tweets that I want to see. Beyond that, I want to see more basketball tweets. Like, that is the stuff that I'm into. And Twitter just did not show me that. There was a study done by the Queensland Institute of Technology. I actually wrote a Substack a couple months ago after the election where I used this study to help with the argument that Elon Musk buying Twitter was exclusively for propaganda purposes. I will link this study somewhere, wherever the fuck this video goes. I will link the study, but the researchers observed a group of 10 Twitter users, 5 conservative, 5 liberal, like AOC, Kamala Harris, Donald Jr., Elon Musk, Jack Posobiec on the conservative side, and they compared various metrics over 2 distinct periods. The first period was pre-algorithmic tweets. The second period was post-alleged algorithmic tweets. The metrics that they looked at were view counts and engagement metrics like likes and retweets. The conclusion at the end of this study showed a potential right-wing bias in the algorithm because the conservative accounts were viewed significantly more than all of the left-wing accounts. There is a caveat in this study, and it is that the conservative accounts tweeted significantly more than the Democrat accounts. I think Elon Musk tweeted more times himself than the 5 Democratic accounts combined. Regardless, and I wrote this in the article, this seems to me it seems to me that there is a bias in the algorithm, but not necessarily in the user base, because engagement metrics remained the same for all of the accounts. So these accounts like AOC, Bernie, Don Jr., they all have their fans, and their fans are going to engage with their tweets regardless. But the fact that the right-wing accounts accumulated more post views does allude to a potential bias in the algorithm. Of course, I understand that more extensive testing could be done, but if people want to manipulate their product, they are going to do that. There have been instances where Jeff Bezos axed articles on the Washington Post. I believe there was one in the wake of the election, or there was one critical of Donald Trump, and Jeff Bezos, who's trying to be in Trump's good graces, was like, no, you can't run that. It's just a really flimsy argument to think that TikTok is doing anything different than Facebook, Google, Instagram. Even in the Senate hearing, President oh my god, President Zhu Zhichu, if I'm mispronouncing his name, I apologize. He even said that their data collection practices are industry norms, which, if that's going to scare you, let it scare you, because that is the industry norm, not because this is a Chinese-based company collecting your data, right? In the United States, there are no privacy protections. The European Union is much stricter on this, but it's pretty much known that if you go onto Google or whatever social media app you use, whatever website you use, it is harvesting as much information as possible so that way it can give it to advertisers and the advertisers can best match a product to you. I think on the 19th, TikTok does get banned. It does sadden me. I'm not heartbroken over this, but I am upset because I really do enjoy using the app. I enjoy creating on that app. It really has such a unique blend of creativity and information that you really don't get from any other social media app outside of YouTube. And the fact that it's just so convenient, it's so easy to create something. The barrier to entry is so low. Like I really had a ton of fun on TikTok, but I do retain a little bit of optimism that it doesn't get banned because the Supreme Court knows the kind of precedent that this would set. And I hope that they strongly take that into account. I know that the liberal justices are going to do that. I'm certain that Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, who are probably the two most conservative justices, they're straight partisan hacks. I think they're going to vote to ban TikTok. But this is a severe overreach on free speech. And although free speech is not it's not limitless. There are things as hate speech, you can't yell bomb on an airplane. The government flat out banning an app, that is in overarch. That is a tremendous overstep on free speech. So I really hope it stays. I don't think it's going to, but I do hold a little bit of hope. I'd say maybe like 3% hope. But yeah, it's not looking too good.